Thank you. I first wanted to just say something about the comment that the political candidates were paying so much attention to the Middle East and not to China and the South China Sea. I think this is explainable in part because the islands are pieces of rocks and territory that don't involve a large number of people. There haven't been a large number of deaths involved in these conflicts. Whereas in the Middle East, we have a constant military presence by the United States, and a lot of people have died, and there are literally millions of migrants. So I think that's one of the reasons that it doesn't rise to the forefront of Americans thinking about China. When the average American thinks about China, they're often thinking about trade, trade competition, loss of jobs, or something like that. They're not thinking about the South China Sea. I've been asked to talk about the Boston Global Forum's framework for peace and security that is posted on the website. I think it's an excellent document on its 4 major points, which is respect for international law, mutual respect among affected countries, regional interdependence and multilateralism, plus ideas of economic development, a code of conduct, and more confidence-building measures in the area. But I have some problems with it when it comes to the statement that the United States military presence in Asia needs to be expanded, and of course that's what everybody is talking about today. So I'm the last speaker. I should have been one of the first, and everybody could have railed against me. I want to just conclude by looking at trying to understand China from the perspective of if you're sitting in Beijing rather than in London or New York or Washington. The world looks quite different. East Asia looks quite different. China is about the same size as the United States, but unlike ourselves, it has close to 20 countries on its borders, and it is also a country that is fully aware of what the United States has done in the world, how it sometimes uses human rights policies to justify intervention, and it's also aware of our policies, our NATO policies of expansion, after promising that we would not continue to expand NATO to Russian borders. We have, in fact, done that and tried to do more of it. Furthermore, the Trans-Pacific Pact feels, if you're in Beijing, a lot like part of a new containment policy for China. And China is also aware that that the United States has ignored other kinds of developments in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, but it treats China's actions doing the same thing, comes down hard on them. So in the South China Sea, after 2002, when China honored the Code of Conduct Agreement permitting only joint drilling in disputed waters, ASEAN countries drilled hundreds of wells in disputed waters, and the United States said nothing. But when China did it, we spoke out, as Bill Overholt has pointed out in great detail. China has a foreign policy that has underlying principles, but China is also changing some of its attitudes and is also responding to some of the pushback by the Japanese and the United States and others in East Asia. And so I think if we look at China today, we have to look at a country that is also looking at alternatives. It's not just looking at the South China Sea. It's also very in the Silk Road, in the One Belt, One Road concept. It's building think tanks that is hoping to promote its own values worldwide. Its press and its television is dedicated to this. For those of you who get the Boston Globe, while Xi Jinping was here, we were treated to the China Daily, tucked into the Boston Globe every day that he was in the country. And we get it every week on a weekly basis anyway. So China's trying to promote its own values. It doesn't have to be necessarily hostile. Let me just conclude by building on what Elizabeth Economy has said about some of the things that we need to do to make a more peaceful world in East Asia. First, the United States needs to give China a chance to lead in the world, to forge policies and present them on their own initiative on things like climate change, even Afghanistan and many other things. Get them involved, have them participate with us in these policies. Secondly, don't create a problem when there is none. China's new infrastructure and investment bank could be extremely valuable for all of us. It could be valuable for East Asia. There's no reason to make a big fuss about this. And we should not give the Chinese any fodder for ideas about building further air identification zones by the things that we do. And finally, not everything needs to be framed as a competition between China and the United States. We're part of a very complicated world, and there's a lot more going on than just what's going on between China and the United States. So we need a framework that involves not just China and the United States, and neglects other countries who are very important to all of us in this world and what they do. Thank you.